Good morning and welcome to today's Digital Risk Digest Live. My name is Greg Tomczyk, coming to you from the beautiful but a little bit rainy North Carolina. We're extremely glad that you're here with us today. This topic is really going to be one for the books, and we also have a very special guest joining us today in Paul Cummings. Really looking forward to diving into this topic around Web3 and what the heck is Web3, how we can use some of the opportunities to elevate our personal and business experiences, and much more. So without further ado, let's dive in. Jeff, over to you, sir.
Hey, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Coffee's flowing. It is October 5th. It's rainy over my neck of the woods as well in Norfolk, Virginia, home of the Atlantic Fleet. Paul, it's great to see you. Great to have you on the show. Maybe we'll go around the round table here and just say what we're drinking on, what we're sipping on this morning.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. Obviously, we're coming in from last night talking about the similarities between baseball and cyber. I myself have a cup of the Whole Cyber Human Initiative's Hackerman coffee blend. All proceeds go to our scholarship fundraiser to provide certification vouchers for future applicants.
Perfect.
It's powerful stuff. I think, everyone loves coffee. Everyone, here at this table, loves to make a positive impact. Today I'm drinking a little bit of Dunkin' Donuts for any of the Massachusetts folks that are on the stream. They like to say Dunkin' Donuts has the best coffee, but we all know that in this area, Krispy Kreme is a much more superior blend. So I just have a medium roast here. I wanted to just give a quick shout out to all the Massachusetts folks out there.
And they're not buried in snow yet, but they will be.
Yeah.
Back to the caves. Back to the caves they go.
My parents, my mom grew up in Massachusetts, and they say that in the winter months they wake up, they get in their car, they try to turn on the heat, and they start banging their head on the steering wheel because they're so miserably cold. So.
I spent about 2 months in there when I was a defense contractor, and everybody was a little slow to warm up to. We were friends, and by the second week or so. So interesting folk, but very nice and warm and welcoming. So on my end, oh yeah, go ahead, Greg.
Coffee's being huge right now. I mean, There's a lot of places coming out with some interesting stuff. With us being the first place to have cyber-inspired coffee, I'm happy to say that Alyssa Knight and her wife are coming up with their own brand. And if I'm not mistaken, it's going to be to support the Night Riders. So there's a lot of good dual marketing going on with some of these coffee brands.
Paul, I was telling the folks last night on the stream, I think you're a modern day superhero. I think just for the audience here, if you could just give a quick background on the Whole Cyber Human Initiative, kind of, a little bit of where you came from to get there. I think it'd be helpful from that standpoint.
Ooh, let me try to do the bottom line up front then. So I come from the military, 20-year Navy information technology chief, cybersecurity professional as well. Stood up a cyber protection team back in 2014, using nothing but the nice body of knowledge, no certifications required and stuff like that. But October 2020, I was going through my retirement, met a lot of the gatekeepers. And really it was because I didn't know where I wanted to be in life, right? Because just as you hear from people that want to be mentees of yours or proteges of yours, the catchphrase is always, I want to get into cybersecurity, or I want to do cybersecurity. And they don't know what they want to do. So Whole Cyber, what we did is we, with the advisory board's help and vetting mechanism, over 300 years combined experience of industry leaders, is we designed a 100-hour at your own pace program, 100% free. The only, well, I guess not free, nothing's ever free, right? Zero money, with the payment being the time to do the work. We actually just had our first 2 candidates complete it, but the concept is the biggest piece of soul searching, looking at the copious amounts of roles within the industry and narrowing them down to what really matches you as a human being. I know personally, I've worked in environments where somebody got pulled into that role. Just like you said, yesterday you got bucketed as a pitcher. They get into these roles and they're like, I really don't like this. Maybe those are the companies that they put that job description out and they have somebody jump in 5 months. So they don't want to create an apprenticeship program. So we help them align their soul searching and then provide some holistic training that's really based on the foundational knowledge that anybody from entry, mid to senior, or even executive should understand. Because when talking to hiring managers, a lot of the basics are what's dropping during the interviews.
Yeah, I think we talked about it a little bit last night, and appreciate the intro, Paul. Folks want to hit a home run before they kind of step up to the plate, and you have to take that first step, to accomplish anything. And I think you guys are doing a huge service to those folks to allow them to see that first step and not just see you're a director and executive, at a cybersecurity organization, but you have to take those steps along the way to ensure success and to learn the basics. I think that's of vital importance from that standpoint. So appreciate that. Jeff, do you have your connected coffee mug there?
I did, absolutely. Yep, it's on the segmented side of my network. And John, I see you there with John Wyatt, another apprentice of ours, a Black Rifle. Shout out to Black Rifle. I was actually just in Gatlinburg, Tennessee for of all things, a kickball tournament. I came across a Black Rifle Coffee Company. Shout out to them. They're a veteran-owned company. Great coffee. It was great to see a storefront. They started on an online kind of e-commerce platform. But I have Beyond Dark, so it's kind of like their sniper special ops blend. Drinking a straight black, so probably not good for the soul, but it's flowing.
It's good for a rainy day. Heat you up a little bit.
Yeah,
beard's looking real nice though.
I just got it trimmed up. I appreciate that. It's definitely a work in progress. So, where's everybody? I'm curious where everyone's tuning in from. If you drop that in the chat, we'd love to hear from you. Paul, you're good from the hurricane and everything. I know you're in the Jax area. I know that recently blew in, so we're always being mindful of those individuals down there. We're sending our blessings your way.
That was actually the one of the jokes that we had in the back channel was they kind of skipped Jacksonville. There's a meme going around on Facebook and Twitter. Ian's scared of Duval, thinking it's going to shoot him up. But I'm actually kind of glad that the hurricane came through and did its thing, because we actually finally got nice, cool weather. I mean, I haven't wore a hoodie in a long time. So, yeah. But now you guys are going to be hitting it, that tail end of this storm, especially as it rides the coast and builds up more momentum.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna need to get one of those whole cyber hoodies right there for the winter months. So.
Yeah, you'll be seeing an order coming from here, coming in hot.
Oh yeah.
Oklahoma. Hey Tammy, good morning. Coming from Oklahoma. We got Toronto, Maryland. Appreciate everybody joining us. We're going to dive in here shortly. Jeff, you want to kick us off in this topic of the day?
Yeah, this is something that I'm particularly fond about. Web3. We've heard the term coined, around 2014 or so. Really heavy into the Ethereum type market and the cryptocurrencies. But I guess first order of business, what is Web3? We'll go around the horn, give everybody's view. They've touched it a little bit different. How does it compare to Web2? And we'll go from there. Paul, let's get things kicked off on your end. How have you interacted with Web3? What do those experiences look like? And let's dive in.
Oh, wow. So, not really a topic that I'm too fluent on. I mean, obviously, you know it, right? Web3 has been kind of like peeking its head out for a couple years. I would think that, if I was to translate it to somebody, everything that in your house is your persona. When you connect to your smartphone, hell, your smart refrigerator, right? That's your digital persona, and Web3 is going to make that all come wrapped around to where you have your own privatized, pretty much infrastructure. Then you talked about the Ethereum. My interactions around Web3 have been kind of dark, especially when you consider, a lot of the digital e-commerce that is used on Silk, deep web, dark web. There's a reason why they want to go that route, especially when we talk about zero trust, non-fungible tokens, because they're harder to track. It's harder to say who exactly is that person unless you have that two-way handshake going with them. Again, looking at it dark, Ethereum is one of those ones where there's a lot of activists, hacktivists, and advanced persistent threats that are using that currency and funnel it through. Even taking a step further, recently, somebody I noticed really close to the family in their 50s, out of the blue, created a Snapchat. Was going to start marketing, or not marketing, but taking pictures of all the beer that he's drinking and stuff like that. And got one of those nice little ad bots that says, "Hey, what you doing, sexy? Come check out my profile." Got curious, clicked on it. Next thing you know is, send me some Bitcoin or send me some Dogecoin, stuff like that. And then probably about $500 later, hey, how can I get this back? It's like, sucks to suck, dude. It's gone. Because at the end of the day, it's, they're saying they're sex workers. You can't really go to law and say, hey, I tried to buy a prostitute and they scanned me. But that's another avenue that when we talk about Web 3.0 is going to be really starting to build momentum with a lot of these romance scams and stuff like that.
Yeah, Paul, it's absolutely a different opportunity set, but many different problems pop up with those new opportunities. The way we like to explain, Web3 as kind of a concept when you talk about the business side of it is the internet has gone along a few different stages as it's evolved from the DARPA university connection and kind of web page type content sharing. So you had Web 1, which was kind of put a website up, share content from a computer to a computer, a network to a network. Web 2 was the blow up of social media. And the premise behind that is how do we connect people at a different level? But the big, large companies still owned all of that data and all of those transactions taking place online. Now we're going to Web3, blockchain, cryptocurrencies, as you guys mentioned, more of a community focused with an aspect of greater control over that community and that information that's flowing. One of the things I heard on a recent podcast was when the internet has evolved, it's kind of a renaissance period, and it's coming up, especially in Web3. It's almost like when everybody worked for the big family farms, and at some point in time they realized that they could take control of their destiny, their future, by going out and starting their own business. And that's what a lot of people are starting to do online, and they're building communities, they're building great companies, and they're all on the internet. They don't even need to be in person nowadays. So it really helps to kind of connect the dots for some folks. It's one of those things that is completely kind of flipping the coin. We all know how the internet works, but it is opening up a entirely new playing surface that I think, very excited about the opportunities. But later on in this show, we're going to talk a little bit about the risks and some of the things that folks can think about as they start to dive into these exciting opportunities.
I think that goes back to that question that was asked about this. As a parent, should I have concerns with the growth of Web 3.0? We kind of hit it, with the crypto jacking and stuff like that already, and the different types of scams. When you look at a lot of the Discord servers built on video games, there's a lot of e-commerce that's based on, crypto that they're using to, hey, I'll create you a Roblox, hack, and you can have everything if you get me this XYZ. But I do think that there's a level of back to the basics that we can start really educating our youth and elderly at the same time, because we can actually do both at the same. And then a lot of games like, I can't remember the company, starts with K. It was like Congra or something like that. They are a full Web 3.0 game environment. So there's a lot to think about.
Yeah, Paul, we recently wrote an article on Web3 kind of explaining what we're seeing in the markets that we play in, professional sports, private equity, and some of the defense sector and how they're using Web3. We see a lot of lean in from the professional sports side of things because they are trying to create an enhanced fan experience, and they're trying to bring it to the phone of somebody sitting in a stadium or at on their couch. So the borders of the internet are completely being shattered. It's putting you in a place to have that experience anywhere in the world, which I think is very exciting. But from a parent standpoint, like you said, I think it goes back to the basics of just making sure folks understand, having different passwords for different things, understanding kind of the infrastructure of the internet to some extent, not the complexities of it, but when you connect to the internet, you're connecting to our router. Our router is secured in this way. Make sure you look out for these specific type of attack vectors that people are going to try to come after you if you're on a Discord server or some type of environment. And just kind of the basic awareness, I think, is going to elevate, your home environment just a little bit more than it would be otherwise. A lot of times, I think it's 90% what we said in that article. 90% of the time, these attacks could be prevented just based off of the basics. So we continue to kind of beat that drum, and hopefully it helps folks kind of stay to the left of the boom before something negative happens. So just a little bit of, so that's a little bit of business context. So I just want to get some of your thoughts, Paul, and when Jeff pops back on, he'll pop in as well. But just from the economic side, the business side, the defense side, as these things come up, blockchain becomes a additional part of us connecting. Those transactions are recorded and kind of can be reputable, so you can go back to them and see, we made this transaction. Here was the contract and what we agreed upon, and where do you think things go from there when it comes to any additional opportunities in that space that you see could be viable, whether it's in the defense space or kind of outside of that in the training space, to help folks be better engaged as we see these technologies continually evolve?
Well, that's a really, really tough one for me to answer. It's a person that I would reach out to, and I'm going to try to quote some of the things that he said, that he's been kind of educating me more on the digital blockchain currency and stuff. But as we lean, like Benita asked, about the federal government side, about, more restrictions and stuff like that. The government and the defense industry has already been looking at ways of auditing and ways of implementation. So when we talk about a good ecosystem, especially when we talk about the economy, we all know that the flat dollar is not a stable means, right? And we know that digital age is going to keep going and going and going. So there's a lot of money that you can make within digital currency. So when you look at these contracts like you were talking about, right? If I was to build a defense contract with global supply chain, I would now have a means to where you could possibly get away with the, I need 3 quotes from a company before I purchase something. Right now, to be in a trusted supply chain network, and you can go in further with it. And then thinking about the logistics piece on the other side of the world, when we are in war-torn countries or we are doing humanitarian efforts, it brings that level of we might not have to be reliant on big oil and other organizations like that, because again, it's going to be sustainable. I mean, yes, it is scary, especially when you see someone like Seth Green that got hacked. Seth Green being, the actor that is pretty much a self-made geek in himself, got took for what, $1 million or $2 million. It goes back to the buyer beware, and really doing that research.
Absolutely. No, completely agree. I think we all see the enhancement in the experience. I think one of the other things, and going back to the Seth Green component, is the collectible piece. So the collectible angle, that it's no longer just the traditional art piece that people are buying. It is a digital asset that is accessible, not just if somebody comes through your front door, but if they get on your network and they have a specific key that gives them access to it, they can pull the rug right from under you. So I think, thinking about how that plays out, we all have to start looking at this stuff as a supply chain. Your supply chain can be compromised at any point in it, and they can move up or down the chain from that standpoint. So we always encourage folks to just do the extra step of due diligence, when you're going in and buying this stuff, and where you're storing it. Are you storing it offline, online, and kind of keeping in mind the risks? If, there are risks of having it offline as well. But there's, convenience when it's online, and there's some things you can kind of wrap around that to make it, a little bit more protected than it would be otherwise. I think, we're currently seeing, a lot of people in the past in this space I have a password manager, so I'm secure. That does not mean you're secure. And we've seen that in the recent headlines. And you have to understand that those strong passwords need to also protect your password database, your password manager, from that standpoint. So it just goes back to the basics. Benita, really appreciate the questions around government regulation. We're seeing a lot of the federal government coming out and saying, we know the impact this is going to have, and we need to stay ahead of it from a regulatory standpoint. So, the SEC guidance, there's a couple really good frameworks coming out. So I think NIST will probably come out with something around, cryptocurrency, Web3, kind of what it looks like from a framework aspect of things. But, translating that framework for it to make sense to the everyday business is going to be something that we're really excited about, putting our minds to help the folks that we serve, and the people, in our families and people that we care about, to put them in a little bit more of a confident position as they go forward with these digital experiences.
But that I like that. You're talking about the goods of it, but then we talk about the breaches and the implications of how back to the basics, as we keep alluding to, are always going to remain one of those things. If you go back to, there was the augmented reality game Second Life years ago, and people were getting social engineered on that left and right. When we start talking about Web 3.0, and there was obviously one of your Padawans, John mentioned about the Oculus, right? Think about digital gaming and how, if I've had so many conversations with people that I could probably guess their password just by playing Halo or Call of Duty with. Then when you start talking about these real immersive RPG games, role-playing games, you build that persona that you want, And next thing you know, you're like, okay, well, that's your screen name. That might be your logon name for something, or that might be your password. So it really does go back to that basics. When we talk about, um, I one of the things that I think is cool that kind of transitions into this Web 3.0 is maybe some of the STEM schools had it right with a lot of the coding academies and stuff that they're implementing, because the amount of AI and machine learning that's going to be involved, we are going to need some aspiring professionals to hit the ground running.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm excited about that aspect of, not only training folks that come into our apprenticeship program and kind of sharing our expertise with the industry, but also putting them kind of a few steps ahead and thinking about how they can secure not only IoT devices, but these Web3 technologies as they come out. Most folks aren't talking about that because they're so excited about the opportunity to be involved with it, to be participating in a gamified environment from that standpoint. So a lot of excitement. I think the main thing folks should be thinking about is authenticity. So authentication, how you authenticate into your environment, and then authenticity. There's a lot of fraudulent transactions. There's a lot of folks who, right before they see someone about to buy their asset, they'll add another zero to it, and it'll process it. It puts it on the blockchain. So I think just thinking about authenticity, whether it's artwork, whether it's a digital collectible for a sports game, a card, it could be a piece of clothing, a Bored Ape. There's a variety of different digital assets being created, and you have to make sure there's authenticity, just like you would do with a car, just like you would do with anything that you own from an asset standpoint.
Well, then there's the other things that when we talked about the persona, right? Look at the IoT devices that are using Web 3.0 already as well. I've been doing a lot of IoT research this last year, and a lot of the e-commerce that's built behind the scenes. There's a lot of devices that are built off a turnkey code solution. They go out to a repository, they get it, and then they're not filling in the gaps. There's a lot of deep threats that revolve around that as well. When you consider, hell, there was a baby monitor that had WeChat on it, which is known to be one of the primary spy sources for the PLA. It also had in there, about how it collects, the digital markets that you can purchase additional material on, or maybe you want to, look at Snapchat, right? You got the filters. Well, now this webcam can give you the option to have a frame. You just got to do a little e-purchase. How much of that is data mined?
Yeah, that takes it to a whole new plane of not just interacting, but where are those interactions going? Who's protecting them? What are they learning about your portfolio or your profile as a person, and how does that allow them to take advantage of you for their own benefit? So I think a lot of downsides, a lot of great opportunities we've discussed today. I think we've opened the can of worms on what is Web3, how's it going to impact everybody. Obviously, we don't have all the answers, but we're doing the necessary research to make sure that the folks we serve, the folks that we care about, are ahead of the curve when it comes to capitalizing on these opportunities, enjoying them from both a personal and business level, and being able to protect themselves as these things come out. Most of the time, new technologies come out, all the attacks happen, and then people learn about it. We want to make sure that people are to the left of the boom and not the ones being taken advantage of to have to learn that lesson. And that's really why we exist here at Valor Cybersecurity. And these types of conversations are why we do what we do. Having folks like you, Paul, on the show to kind of explore the mind, explore different perspectives. I think that's how we bring things to light to make people just a little bit more aware. I just want a shout out to the folks who joined us today. We want to take a few minutes here and just answer any additional questions you guys may have, be able to kind of get a layer deeper and see if you have any specific questions on Web3. We love talking about this stuff. It's an incredibly fascinating evolution, I think, in the day that we live in today. And we want to make sure that we can be a resource to any of you as you go forward, whether you want to get into cybersecurity or you're a business executive, or you want to get into a business position and pitch this to your company as a potential innovative effort. Paul, while we do that, any additional thoughts that you see from your seat, when it comes to some of these, evolving digital experiences? What would you say you're most excited about when it comes to this from the training aspect, or, really just from kind of the evolution of creating further awareness in this industry?
I think it kind of ties in together. I mean, you nailed the training, and I like my training. With cybersecurity being about continuous education, it opens up a lot of doors. With the research that we're doing, we're trying to help put that information out there. You got, specifically with the IoT devices, they traditionally get that third party pen test or vulnerability assessment, then it goes to market. Go layers deeper. We're doing criminal investigations on the company. Going to Crunchbase, doing the PIPL search, putting the IP addresses that you find in the APK into Spiderfoot, and really seeing what is involved in the background. Oh man, John asked a great question. I think that's definitely you.
John, you always have great questions. I think we could sit around all day and listen to your incredible questions and scratch our heads a little bit on some of the answers. But I think it's a valuable question. What do you do to secure your crypto wallet? I think one of the things, we're seeing crypto all over the map. So a lot of people are dumping it. A lot of people are looking to buy into it. It's a tricky space right now. Our recommendation would be to have some type of offline wallet, some type of backup. Make sure you're backing up your keys, making sure that if you're going to keep everything online, then you really understand the implications of having your crypto wallet online. If you don't know, put it offline until you learn how to keep things online securely. And that's going to put you in a much better proactive state to ensure that your crypto or your digital assets are well secured, well protected from that standpoint.
I think there's another good question in there about where's a good place to start learning about Web 3.0.
Yeah, so I think it always goes back to the do your own research. It has to resonate with your experiences. We have a great article that we shared in the chat here that we put out to the world around kind of Web3 evolutions and how we see the best way to secure them. Obviously, it's a supply chain, so you want to look at each part of that supply chain. You want to make sure that the authentication piece is covered, and then making sure the authenticity of that transaction is appropriate. I think that's a great place to start. So learning further about authentication and authenticity. And then, check out our article, do your own research, shoot us a message and ask, hey, I was doing my research and, I thought this was interesting. We'd love to learn kind of your perspective on it. And also if you have a specific question for us around, private equity professional sports and how it's evolving in those spaces, we'd love to kind of engage in that conversation and continue it from here.
Yeah, just try to drop it in chat, but I think it might be a lag. But Harvard Business Review is actually how I got spun up on it. They did a great article in May. What is Web3? And it breaks everything down to the point where if you were to look at Valor's, explored evolutions and securing them, you would actually be able to put piece to piece together and really understand it. But it really is about the research that you do and how you learn as a person.
Yeah, I love that article. When we were going through our research and kind of having conversations around it, just trying to put all the pieces together, it's very complex and it has to be contextualized, to you, as you mentioned, Paul. I think that's of vital importance, and that's what we try to do for our different audiences. But we can't tailor it to everybody. One of the things I'd look at in there is kind of, the digital experience that we're seeing, the digital assets that we're seeing come up and about, and then some of the best practices from a security protection standpoint that you can put in place. So that's what we try to do in that article. Hopefully it helps. But once again, it takes a conversation to really explore some of these avenues. And that's why we're having this today, and extremely fortunate to have Paul on. Jeff was in and out, having some internet issues, but you'll see his glowing face on our next live, which will be next Friday. We'll be doing a live on some of the differences between cybersecurity and IT. We talk a lot about this, in our business world, but it's a vital importance to understand the role that each of those play in a business environment. And I think it's going to be exciting to dive into some of those topics with the team here. If you like the show, definitely hit the subscribe button, follow us on LinkedIn. As I've mentioned multiple times, reach out. We're community focused. We want to support your journey, learning Web3, learning cybersecurity, putting yourself in a better protected experience for your business, your brand, your personal life. So thanks so much for joining us, Paul. Always a pleasure. And we'll see you on the next one. Thanks, everyone.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Always.